Hi, hello everyone. So, as promised, and to be honest, I have had some problems, including some technical problems and some audio problems and many things. But here we are. I present you the interview with Mads Kristensen, Microsoft Principal Product Manager, if I'm not mistaken, of Visual Studio team. So, we are now going to watch this. I know I have done some editings, but I can assure you I'm not going to cut all of the important parts. Only I only cut the problematic part of the technical problems that I had before. So this video will also be the some kind of introduction about Visual Studio 2026. And previously, I mentioned about Visual Studio 18. So 18 is the version number or the actual version number of Visual Studio 2026. You can say you can consider it the 2026 is the marketing name or the marketing version of Visual Studio, and this means the Visual Studio 2026 will be released soon. So I could not have the exact date honestly, but it is safer to bet that we will have Visual Studio 2026 on November because November will be the release of .NET 10. In order to have a, you know, we always have some kind of a, what is the term for that? Oh, yeah, habit of having a kind of link or closely coupled release between Visual Studio and the .NET. So we are going to have .NET 10, and of course, we are going to have Visual Studio 18 or 2026 release. Although it is a not yet released version, previously it was called preview, like the previous preview versions, but now it is called Visual Studio Insiders. And in this 2026, you will find many good things. Just watch the interview, and I will explain to you in a follow-up video after this because so many things are packed within this release, this 2026 release. So stay tuned, just bear with me. I know I still have some depth on about the Belajar.net video series that is also finished, but I have to bring you this exciting interview because this video is supposed to be uploaded and shown to you all 3 weeks ago, but now all the problems are settled, and here we are. So let's just watch this video. I have yeah, again, I'm sorry, I have to do some editings, but it will not it will not cut all of the important parts. So enjoy this video interview, and after this I will, yes, bring a follow-up video, and hopefully next week you will have the follow-up video as well, because again I have to explain to you what's going on. This 1 hour or almost 1 hour interview will not bring all of the goodness of Visual Studio 2026. Yes, you can download and install it and see what's new on this 2026, but you will be overwhelmed because all of those what's new are actually or too many information overloads. So I'll try to have you sort that out. And yes, okay, let's just go into this visualstudio.net and its ecosystem news and updates. Special edition of interview with Mads Kristensen, Microsoft Principal Product Manager of Visual Studio.
First of all, hello, mates.
Hello.
And I'm Aryawan from Indonesia. Hopefully, it will be smooth. Um, okay, thank you for accepting my invitation. Uh, First of all, could you please introduce yourself?
Yep, my name is Mads Kristensen, and I'm a product manager on the Visual Studio team. And I've been a product manager on the Visual Studio team for about 15 years now.
Oh, 15 years. That's
Yeah, 15 years. Before that, I was a developer working in VB and C Sharp using Visual Studio for about 10 years before I joined Microsoft to work on Visual Studio. So I've been using Visual Studio for about 25 years.
That is a very good thing. I still remember that I used Visual Studio, but not exactly from the initial release because it was being taught when I was in college. So it's I think Visual Studio 97 or 98. I could not remember, but it is very
Okay.
already a cool product at that time. Yeah, though that
Yeah.
has not been released yet, but
So you've been from the very beginning. So Visual Studio is 28 years old,
Yeah.
28 and a half. And so you might have been there from the very beginning.
So we are going to discuss about PS18, but maybe some of the questions and also feedback. Actually, before I have this meeting, I asked some of my friends, especially those like MVPs, that if you have some feedback, please tell me, and I'll try to make it. I'll try to tell you, and also, but first, I will prioritize the general thing about Visual Studio, especially Visual Studio 18, especially also in related to the current release that we already have still now, like 2022. So, okay, first I would like to know about the general. Let me look at my notes. I mean, general direction in VS18. I know that you may have some talk already done, like I think it's VS Live, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
But
it was.
could you also, inform us about the general direction and
Mhm.
maybe some kind of glimpse of the future releases? I mean, the general plan after VS18.
Yeah, absolutely. So so Visual Studio 18, the 18th version of Visual Studio. So yeah, it's an older product, right? But it now has a name. So we called it the 18th version, or Visual Studio 18, but we're now giving it a name. It's called Visual Studio 2026. Visual Studio 2026. And we just released it, and in the first insider. So we used to have a preview for people who wanted kind of early bits and seeing, the early stages of feature development while we were developing it. So we've renamed that now. So instead of it being called preview, we're calling that insiders. So you can get insiders, or you can go to the stable release. When we release that in the near future, we'll have the finished Visual Studio 2026, and that will be in the stable release. But until then, you can get the insiders build, and we'll update that many times on the way to the final stable release. And it's a huge release this time because we are touching so many aspects of the IDE, and it's a kind of we kind of like to think about it as a foundational release. It sets us up for the future. So Visual Studio has many years behind it, and a lot of kind of older code exists in it as well. And what we're trying to do now is to kind of take a leap ahead, because Visual Studio is gaining popularity. It's used by more and more people all the time. We've never had as many users as we do today. And so it's important that we are at a healthy place and we can go toward the future with confidence and effectiveness and be able to add the features that we need. So we're doing a couple of things, or we're doing several things. One of them is that we're looking at performance. Like, what does it take for us to re-architecture parts of Visual Studio so that performance can be a lot faster? Instead of these incremental performance gains that we've done over the years, we're looking at how can we fundamentally change how we look at our architecture to make performance much, much better all around everywhere. And so that is something that we're baking into this first release of Visual Studio 2026. And you're going to see for every new build that we do, you're going to see improvement on performance. It's because we've laid that foundation and changed that architecture. So now we're able to build on top of that, which is really cool. The second thing we're doing is that we're doing a brand new fluent UI design language. So Visual Studio looked a little bit old. It didn't look as modern as we liked it to. Simply, it was just a prioritization question, right? We kind of didn't get around to it, and that meant that the design made Visual Studio look kind of dated. But now we have a brand new UI. It's absolutely gorgeous, crisp lines, nice accessibility and distance between your menu items, and like the attention to detail is just absolutely phenomenal. And in addition to the dark theme and the light theme that you know from previous versions of Visual Studio, there's now 11 additional themes, both light and dark themes. And of course, on the marketplace, you can download a lot more. And it's also easier to make your own themes and share them. And so we're going to see an explosion probably of color themes, which is fantastic. New icons. So there's 4,000 icons in Visual Studio. They've been updated to have this new, crisp, really nice looking feel. And so if you take that new design and the performance gains, what you'll experience is very apparent immediately as you start using Visual Studio 2026. You'll see something that feels modern. It's lightweight. It's really responsive to what you're doing. It feels like a lighter product, and there's a flow and there's a feeling of something new and exciting. And so that's probably what you're going to be met with at first. And that's, we're so proud of this, and the team has done a fantastic job here. And then the third thing we're doing is that we're building AI deep into the product. So Visual Studio is an IDE, which means it has everything that you need, right? It has unit testing capabilities, debugging, code coverage, profiling, you name it. Visual Studio has it all. So it's important that in order for us to really harness that power and democratize all these features, meaning like making it so that all these features are easy to use and you're not limited by your own abilities to understand low-level code, for instance. Like if you were to debug something today, it might be really hard for you to debug down into like multi-threaded applications where you have, async call stacks, and it gets really complicated. Just computer science is really complicated when you're dealing with certain things. And some people, they know how to do that. They know how to go in and instead of using Visual Studio, they can go down and use WinDBG and really go down to the metal. And this is so low level, right? Most people cannot do that. But sometimes that's what you need. And so by us building this foundational layer of AI into the core aspects of Visual Studio, we are now able to help you out and make you able to debug these things and profile performance bottlenecks and too much memory being allocated, and figure out where that happens, how it happens, and how to fix it while you learn how to do that along the way. And the AI can help you with this. So again, that's a foundational thing. The first thing we're building on top of this is the profiler agent with AI and Copilot, which helps you exactly to find performance issues, which can be really difficult to find. And even though you can find them, maybe, how do you know how to fix them? And so these are kind of very advanced concepts. And so the idea is that we want to bring those advanced concepts to everybody. Now everyone can use them because the AI is there to help us and help us at the level we're at. And so it helps us open the door that was previously closed to us. We didn't know how to go down low level stuff. It opens the door, but instead of the AI walking through that door and just fix it for you, it takes you with it. And so you become a better developer because of this. So it makes the impossible possible, and it makes you a better developer. And that is super exciting. And so those are the kind of the foundational changes where you can see a benefit from it immediately, but you will see a bunch of features coming on top of it in the future, in the near future too. It's not like far out. It's like it's all coming very, very soon after we are finished with 2026.
You mentioned something about Insider. Somehow it feels like the same name that VS Code already have it, right?
The
Like the
insiders.
insider. Yes. Is
Yeah,
it
I mean
like the
we
same concept or different or?
yeah, it's the same concept as VS Code, or Windows have the insider ring, and it's kind of an
Okay.
industry term.
Mm.
And we like it because we might want to ship more often in the future. And so if it's preview and we're dealing with like preview 1, 2, 3, that becomes not maybe less fluent than having an insider channel that we can post to more often. And so it has to do with our monthly releases that we are shifting to. So instead of releasing Visual Studio updates to Visual Studio every 3 to 4 months, we're going to ship updates to Visual Studio every single month,
Oh.
right? So it's a much shorter time from idea or concept to feature in hand and published and released to all the users. And so because of that, we want to have a more responsive and tighter feedback loop and be able to test out features and for people to try out features more frequently. And so renaming it to insiders makes more sense. We like that. It's more descriptive of what's to come and how we're going to use it.
So about that, will it be different from because when I have VS 2022 the 17, I can have the release one and also I can have the review. Is it the same as before or
Yes.
different or? Oh,
Exactly the
that's
same.
good.
You can install them side by side. You can
Mhm.
try out the insiders build here of 2026, and it will not interfere with 2022. It will just you can have them side by side. You can update one of them but not the other, or both of them at the same time. It's all good. You can uninstall one of them and it won't uninstall anything from the other build. They don't interfere
Mm.
with each other. So it's safe to do, and this has been the case for quite a while. And so we kind of know what we're doing on this one, and it's very safe to do. It's a proven technology. So let's put it that way.
Okay.
But actually, this one it's a little smarter this time, because if you have 2022 installed and then 2026 is able to look at the settings you had in 2022, the different components, like did you install the ASP.NET and the desktop workloads, for instance, and what other components did you select or deselect. It will be able to read that, and it will look at your extensions and say, hey, all these extensions that you had, I'm going to read that and be able to install them, so that when you install 2026, it will ask you, hey, do you want me to just kind of mirror what you had to get you going much faster? And you can just say yes, and then whoop, it installs super quick. You get your extensions, your settings, and your components, and you're ready to open your solution and start coding. So that's amazing. So this also means that the extensions are backwards compatible or forwards compatible. The 2022 extensions are forward compatible to 2026. And that's the first time in Visual Studio history that we've had that. And so that's super exciting. So any extension will work. We have not seen an extension that will not work. That doesn't mean that they don't exist. We just haven't seen any. So the chances are very good that any extension you're relying on will install and work just fine. And so you're not blocked by missing your favorite extensions, and you can get going right away.
Yes, I think it's a very good idea because uh, me in using VS 2022, I had some problem. I mean, when I tried to use the extension from, let's say, 2019, it is not just the compatibility problem, but also sometimes I got some errors. I think it is a bit related to uh, deprecation of some API, if I'm not mistaken, like the one that I see on the documentation, if I'm not mistaken. But now that I can have assurance that all of the extension that already working in 2022 can work on the 2026, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
And so,
It's something that people always want, and for a lot of people, they cannot update to the latest version of Visual Studio until their extensions are ready and supports that version. So it's nice that we no longer have to worry about that.
that would bring me something I'm a little bit curious about. So let's say if I have some kind of extension that relies on a specific API that will be not available on, let's say, 2026, does it mean that when the 2026 is installed, it will also bring those old dependency from 2022, or I mean, if it is, if you can explain it in a, I
Yeah.
mean, if it's okay to to have that kind of explanation,
Yeah.
that would be good.
So that's a great question. The
Mhm.
the way we've done this is that we have done our utmost for not changing the APIs at all. So there will be new APIs that only exist in 2026. But all the APIs that were there in 2022, almost all of them, like very close to all of them, are also available and still working the exact same way in 2022. So even with the re-architecture to optimize performance and so on, we've been able to keep that compatibility to like close to 100%. So the API surface is the same. And so that's how we've done it. It's not that we're looking back and being able
Yes, yes.
to call into 2022. You don't have to have Visual Studio 2022 installed
Mhm.
in order for you to run an extension in 2026 that where that extension was written originally for 2022.
Yes, yes.
It runs the same exact same thing runs in Visual Studio. So normally, in the past we haven't been able to do it because we've had breaking changes that would break backwards compatibility. So in 2022, it was that we made the shift to 64-bit. That was something that would break a bunch of extensions, and you had to recompile and upload a new version, right? So that was much harder. But this time, you don't have to.
That would be a very nice newer feature, not just, because I've already tried the Insider, and I think from the beginning when it tries to load my existing solution, it's always faster. It's like a 25 to 30% faster, and
Oh yeah,
also having
and
that kind
it's
of
and it's getting faster still. It's still getting
oh,
faster. So
that's
as
great.
as we get closer to the to the final release of 2026, while you're doing these insider builds, every new insider build you'll see is faster. And even when we get to the final 2026, then you'll have the monthly updates starting to come in. The first one coming just a month later, and it will be faster than the one before it, and so on. So this is going to continue.
That would be a nice news, and also okay, based on that fact, some of my friends, including me, also curious. Will the I mean the existing cadence like we have in the 2022 will be faster? I mean, let's say usually we get 3.5 years, if I'm not mistaken, regarding the major release. Will it be like we are going to have another new major version after 2026, or let's say in a 2 years cadence, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
will they change?
that's a good question. So we're finalizing that right now. We're hoping to change things a bit, and it has to
Oh,
do with how we're doing monthly releases and so on. And so the idea is that hopefully we're not going to wait that long for a new major version, but we will have more to share on that as that finalizes, and that will happen hopefully within the next weeks or months. And so just stay tuned, follow the Visual Studio blog,
yes.
or follow your channel because you are an MVP, and so you will know before the public will know,
Yes.
and so you can break the news to your audience on how that's going to be. But once we find out, we're gonna post something. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you. So now is I'm going to ask about something a bit more general. Um, what about the support for other kinds of version control? For example, I know that we already have support for GitHub and Azure DevOps. Will there be will in support for, let's say, the other companies like GitLab, or maybe AWS Code Commit, or maybe other
Right.
kinds of providers?
So it's something we're investigating, how to make the Git support in Visual Studio extensible so that you can plug in any Git provider. As long as it's Git, we're good. So you can use Git to GitLab or whatever today, but you use it as normal Git tooling, and so that will
Yeah.
work just fine. But you won't get any integration with like issue trackers and stuff like you will do on using GitHub or Azure DevOps. And so that's the appeal, is to how do we get those additional features in, right?
Yes.
And we're investigating it. It's been investigated for a long time. It's not so much as an investigation might be the wrong word. I think we know how to do it. It's more like a prioritization. And so right now we're prioritizing, finalizing all the features that apply to everybody using Git, and getting that, and the performance and stuff, and the new UI. So all areas of Visual Studio, we've had to update the UI. So all the teams have been busy with that. And so same goes with performance and other things. And so that takes priority. And then I think after 2026 ships in a monthly update, who knows what's going to happen, but it's not something that we have committed to or scheduled or saying, hey, it's on the roadmap. I won't go that far, but it's something that we are considering.
Okay. So in relation to that, will there be some kind of new features like, sometimes when I used to be part of the other kinds of OSS project on GitHub, some of the repo always require me to sign the commit, something like sign or something related to GPG, or I don't remember. But will there be some kind of in-house or built-in feature in Visual Studio? Because that feature is always would be useful. Let's say if Visual Studio can also do that during the pull request or something else.
Yeah. I don't know if we already support it or if it's coming. I haven't. This is the first time I heard the feature request. So I wonder if it's already possible, but we don't show it very clearly, maybe. So let's follow up afterwards. I'm kind of curious to see that, because I know GitHub and others, they have this, you can sign your commits for security reasons.
GitHub can
and
do
so,
that. Yes.
yeah. So I'm kind of curious about that myself now that you mention it, but this is the first I hear of it. So I'm guessing that it is possible today.
Yeah, because
Maybe just not easy to find.
yeah, maybe. When I try to put submit a feature from the Visual Studio, somehow it cannot really give me the correct information about that, because that feature, as far as I know, at least from the 2022 point of view, we don't have that at all. So that would be great if we have that, or maybe let's follow up, and I'll send you email as well.
So
that would be
I
great.
will
Yep.
I will say this. So so anytime you have a feature request, anyone listening right now or watching right now, you have a feature request for Visual Studio, please post it. Go to top level menu in Visual Studio, go to help and send feature request. In the past 12 months, we have implemented 290 feature requests from users. So that is 1.2 feature requests per workday that we have implemented.
Whoa.
And when it comes to bugs, we also really want you to report those bugs, because guess what? Those bugs exist whether we know about them or not. So please report them. And again, in the past 12 months, we fixed 4,500 bugs that the users reported. And so that's 18 bugs fixed per workday. It's an absolutely amazing amount. And the rate of how we're doing this is going up. So we're fixing more and more, we're implementing more and more of feature requests. And so it's not a black hole where you open a feature request and then nothing ever happens. If good feature request, get some votes on it, get some comments, help us out, make it easy. The easier you make it for us, the easier it is for us to prioritize it. So let's get it done. And we're in it together, right? Visual Studio cannot be successful without you being successful. And so it's important that we understand what it is that you want and you need. So when you open a feature request or bug report, do your best to tell us so we can understand. And we really want to do what's right. So, So if that feature request doesn't exist, post it and share your link here on the YouTube so that your audience, if they agree and they want it to, they can vote for it.
Sure, I will do that.
Yeah.
And still in related to that kind of feature, will there be also Hang on, let me look at my notes about Visual Studio extensibility because, as far as I know, honestly, when I see the documentation on the learn.microsoft.com, it is a little bit, like too many. It's hard to see the forest with the trees.
Yeah.
And honestly, let's say if I just want to add a new item, for example, that would be easy to search and in documentation for that. But if I just want to add a new menu when I, let's say, right click a new project or
Hmm.
right click other kinds of item in the Solution Explorer, it is very hard to do. I
Yeah.
uh, I have followed your videos on extensibility and thank you for that. But um, sometimes simple thing like I would like to do something about the context of the project inside the Solution Explorer. That kind of information is a little bit hard to reach, and
Yeah.
hopefully, yeah.
So a couple of things.
Hmm.
So we have so Visual Studio is kind of almost famous for being hard to extend to write plugins for Visual Studio. It's
Hmm.
not easy to get started because it's complicated and it's kind of it shows that it's a little bit old. It uses COM interfaces and stuff. So it's not a straightforward thing to do. So the good news is we're building a brand new extensibility model and we call it Visual Studio Extensibility. It's just to give it a new name so that there's a differentiation. So that is work undergoing. It has been going on for the last like 4 years, 3 years. And you can right now you can use it. You can add buttons, and it's much easier. It's all in C#. You don't have to have XML files where you declare where your button should go, and it's a magic string that you use, and hopefully that places it in the right location in the IDE. It's all very hard to do, and a lot of tribal knowledge is needed. Like if you don't know, you don't know, and so how do you
Yes.
break free of that? Right, that's really hard. So it's going to get so much easier. But it's a long process for us to build that because all the APIs, and there are many, many APIs in Visual Studio, they have to switch to this new model. So this new model is like .NET Core. It runs out of process. You can install an extension and you don't have to restart Visual Studio for it to work. So there's a lot of benefits to this that we really want to go this new way, but it just takes a while. So if you want kind of a simple extension today, then that might be the way you want to do it.
Hmm.
If you want something more complex with tool windows and other aspects, then you can't just use the new extensibility model.
Yeah.
The good news here is that there is a community project called the Visual Studio Community Toolkit that basically took kind of that old API that is huge and can do everything in Visual Studio, and added an API wrapper around it that's modern, async await, no COM interfaces, none of that
Yes.
old
Yes.
stuff
Yes.
that's really hard to do. Makes it
Yeah.
super easy to build pretty much anything you want in Visual Studio. And so that's usually what I recommend that people do if they want to build a larger extension. Or any extension really. It's really easy to get started with, and it's close in the way you think about how to write the code. There, it looks more similar to the new extensibility model that we're working on.
Hmm.
So that when you want to go from the toolkit to the new extensibility model, that's kind of easy. And so what I always tell people if they want to get started, use the new extensibility model if they can, if the API surface they need is available. And if they don't, then go to v6cookbook.com.
Yes.
v6cookbook.com. And
Okay.
that's the community toolkit. It tells you how to install it, how to get going, and it's really, really easy. There's a bunch of videos, tutorials, walkthroughs, and it's you avoid kind of the that old documentation that you were mentioning. That's very hard to
Yeah.
kind of make sense of.
Okay. Hang on. Give me a minute. I'm
Yep.
going to do something about the setting. Yep. Yeah. I have to turn off notification.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
No worries.
That's a good thing. Okay, that's for extensibility. Next one is, will there plan for, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, Visual Studio is, I mean, the UI is using WPF, right?
Yep.
Will there be some kind of plan to support the newer DirectX like the X10 or the X11, maybe?
That's a good. I don't know. We're doing WPF, and Windows is hosting WPF, right? And so I
Yes.
don't know if Windows is gonna use take advantage of DirectX for WPF. That is a good question. I don't know. But more and more Visual Studio, actually Visual Studio is a mix of WPF, WinForms, and
Yes.
native UI. Just because of its age, right? So the different technologies that came out in different times. And in Visual Studio 2010, that's when we shifted it over to WPF. But there are still aspects of Visual Studio that is WinForms and C++. But those are getting fewer and fewer. And in 2026, in the latest one, we have even fewer things, and most of Visual Studio is now fully WPF, including the settings. The settings, we no longer have that settings dialog that looks kind of weird and doesn't follow your color theme and so
Yeah.
on. So that's taken care of now. And so more, and because it's been rewritten in WPF, and so more and more is WPF. And so whatever we get out of Windows for WPF, Visual Studio will get the benefit whenever they do something there. So that's pretty great. I don't know what the plans are for DirectX 11 or any of that.
Yes, because I mean, as far as I know, the at least from the point of view of 2022, when I look and try to analyze the component of WPF from, if you know that there is a open source tool like Snoop, it can,
Yep.
like
Mm-hmm.
deconstruct the layers. It's all
Yeah.
about WPF, and it is pointing to the .NET framework. I think 4.8 if I use Windows
Yep.
11, and then
4.8. Mm-hmm.
yep, and it is still using the old DX. I think the DX 9.0.9.0. Yeah, I mean, I know that the X10 and 11 is highly backward compatible. You can run any apps that use the X9, but that would be great, like if I can leverage the newer version of DirectX. But then maybe that requires some of us to change the WPF itself. I don't know.
Yeah. You know what? I just written it down. I need to go ask them. I'm not you making me curious myself. I don't know the answer to this, but I'm
Mhm.
very curious. Could it be because of there's a minimum requirement,
Yeah.
and DirectX 11 or whatever only exists on the latest kind of builds of Windows 11, or does it require a
Yes.
certain graphics card or something? I don't know. So I want to follow up because this now I'm curious.
Yeah, me too.
That's a great
Because as
question.
far as I know, when I analyze using Snoop, and then I try to hunt down all of the assemblies and those things you use, and then analyze back using other kinds to like Purview or something. It really points back to the DirectX version 9.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit outdated. I don't know. I mean, as far as I know, last month I read the life cycle of the DirectX itself. That DirectX 9 is already not supported anymore, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe we could try to
Yeah.
inform the Visual Studio team about this, like
Yes.
somehow try to use this newer version. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm sure they're fully aware of why it is the way it is, but I want to know.
Mhm.
And if they're not aware, they should be. So
Yeah, they should be.
either
Yeah.
either way, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Okay. Next one is about the .NET support. Like we know that Visual Studio is very closely integrated with the .NET SDK projects and so on so on. Will there be some kind of way to, let's say, minimize any friction? Like, uh, hang on, let me see, because there were some bugs, and that kind of those kind of bugs are somehow, I'm sorry if I may have the wrong choice of word. It's like a quite easy bug to test. I mean, for example, let me look at my notes. Bug that is related to get restore, for example. I think it is in the 17.14.9 and oh, hang on, not that version, 17.14.10, and they are now changing the default behavior of the NuGet audit in the JS project or any kinds of project SDK to be uh, uh, to be turned off by default, because previously it is turned on. Then somehow other people, including me, also has that kind of a weird situation. Like some of the CI stopped working because the NuGet audit is heavily chasing at all of the dependencies and also all of the vulnerability packages that are being listed on the I think it's in the official NuGet source server. So that kind of thing is making me wonder, and some of my friends also asking me, will there will will there some kind of way to minimize that kind of problem? Because it is easy to test. In I mean, try to before you release a feature, try to test it like the old code base and so on, run it on the CI, because that kind of thing is also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen that kind of way to test, at least on the look on the let's say NuGet, because as far as I know, NuGet is also open source, and also the .NET SDK itself, .NET Core and the project system, all of those are open source. They should be able to at least test it before, before releasing a newer feature that somehow it feels like a little bit can be seen as a regression. But somehow if I find out that my existing code does not work anymore, that would be a little bit annoyance, like unpleasant experience, right?
Yeah. So if I understand your question correctly, it's about like when we build new features that we take good care not to break any existing features.
Yes,
So we don't
yes,
create any regressions, and that sometimes we actually do that. We do break existing features, and we do add regression bugs. And why is that? And can we stop doing that? Is that kind of the gist of the question?
yeah. Yeah, it's like some things about that. Okay, let me give you the link. Oh, when I paste from Edge, it doesn't give me the link. It directly give me the title. I give it. Yeah. So I paste it
That's
on the
the
chat.
release notes.
And
Yeah.
if you see on the fix on that 17.14.10,
Yeah.
especially the ensure vulnerability data is not queried by the package manager UI. That kind of thing is uh, it's a bit, to me it's a bit critical, because it breaks some of the existing CI, especially for those CI that is used to do continuous integration for, let's say, .NET 8 and
Yeah.
some part of .NET 9 itself.
So the so if we accidentally break
Mm-hmm.
any existing feature or scenario, it is not intentional.
Oh
And
yeah, I
like when you write software, you also break things sometimes.
yeah.
We are the same. We try the best we can not to. We
Mm-hmm.
try to have test cases, integration tests, functional tests, unit tests, you name it, for all the scenarios. But like everybody else that does the same thing, it doesn't always work. It is not a guarantee that stuff like that can't happen, and so it does happen. We do our very best not to make it happen, but we are human, and this is the cost of doing software. Sometimes unforeseen consequences happen. Everything has a side effect, and
Correct. Yeah.
we what is it that the quote is? I forget who said it, but something like the existing like unit tests do not prove the existence of bugs, not that they not the opposite. And so you can't. And unit test doesn't mean that all bugs are found, right? It means that you're testing for the bugs that you can foresee or that you've run into. And so there are just scenarios that our tests don't cover that we have not run into
Yeah.
because they might be edge cases or special circumstances or other parts of some other aspect of software, whether it's our own or someone else's, changed to have a different behavior, which that then had a side effect that it interfered with how NuGet does restore or something,
Correct.
right? Who knows? So then we have to add test cases for it. And so we try our best not to have that happen again, right? Just like anyone else. There's really no difference here. We're just because we're Microsoft doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes or we do things much different than other software houses do, and so
Yeah.
other teams.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, okay, you mentioned about something like unit testing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Previously, like in the .NET Framework world, we use the uh, what is the name for that? VS Test Runner, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to run it on the command prompt instead of from Visual Studio because we are going to use that for CI, for example. Will there be a deprecation on the old VS Test Runner because there was a new news, if I'm not mistaken, about newer Microsoft testing platform, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah. And .NET Test. Yeah. Right.
Yes, yes.
The CLI tool and so on. I
Mm.
have not heard of any deprecation, so I think you can still use it if you want to. Yeah.
Oh, that would be a good thing because some of my customers are still using .NET Framework. I know that they are planning to migrate, but many that many, I mean, some of the customer that is very large enterprise. Usually
Yeah.
they are very slow to migrate,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I can
No,
empathize. Yeah.
it's still there, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, the next one. Hopefully, I still have some time.
Yeah. We got time.
Yeah. You already asked about the extensibility. There is a feedback from some of my friends about the extension. I think it's called Power Tool extension. The extension to create a app for app inside Visual Studio. And I already tried that. I already only use for 2 to 3 days, but it is a bit different from the use of, let's say, if I use Power Studio, for example. The learning curve is higher. I don't know whether I can, submit fit feature feedback for this one because I know that this kind of tool is actually an extension and it is not, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not part of your team's responsibility, but if you can give me some pointers. Okay, let me see if I
What's the
have
name of this extension you're talking about?
uh, power tool or something.
Oh,
Hang
Power
on.
Tools. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, not the
Productivity Power Tools. Uh-huh.
yeah. Let me power. That's my note. Power Platform Tools for Visual Studio. That would be the name. Okay, I'll give you the link. Oh, this is wrong one. Okay, this is correct.
I know
One.
Productivity Power Tools. We can talk about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, not that productivity. I mean the Power Platform Tools to create a
Oh,
Power Apps. Yeah, that one.
I I do not know about the Power Platform tools, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay.
I won't be
So
able to help
maybe,
much there. Yeah.
yeah, maybe I will follow up after this and ask you about how can I give feedback. Not just that kind of learning curve, but also some kind of feature parity between that tool inside Visual Studio when it's compared to I think the name is Power Studio or something. It is also a tool from Microsoft. If the feature parity is quite large, especially those differences, I think it's worthy to be, I mean, for me to submit a feedback. Only I don't know how to submit because this tool is not available built in within Visual Studio, right? So yeah.
I don't. Is it still the Power Platform thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't really know anything about the Power Platform in relation to Visual Studio.
Okay. Yeah. I've used it for a while. Previously, I'm just using the Power Studio. It's not my main competency, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I help some of my customer as well to do some quick bug fix, and it is nice and it is quite easy to use compared to the Power Platform tool. But
Nice.
somehow, yeah, I mean the bug experience is much richer compared to the
Yeah,
Power Studio, honestly,
I bet.
because
It's the
yeah,
Visual
no one
Studio
can do.
debugger.
Yeah.
It's a great
Yes.
experience
Yeah.
usually. Yeah.
Very powerful. Okay, next one.
Do one more.
Yeah, yeah. I let's wrap up for this. Will there be some kind of if I'm not mistaken, in the I think 2010 or 2012, yeah, there is a tool like enable us to create a some kind of diagram like UML. Will there be some kind of updates to that kind of tool, like not
The
just able to?
DGML.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. It's the
yeah,
DGML tool. Um, so it's it's in the architecture tools that ships with the enterprise version of Visual Studio.
yeah, yeah.
So it's still there, but it hasn't really been updated. But hey, good news. We are shipping in 2026 mermaid diagram support for
Oh,
Markdown.
yeah, yeah,
And so what's really nice about that is that, any Markdown file can have mermaid diagrams in it, which is a super easy way to express even very complex diagramming. And so that's really nice. What's really even nicer is that you can tell Copilot to create a diagram of anything in your app you want, and it produces the mermaid diagram. So you can say, "Hey, Copilot, create a mermaid diagram based, showing the relationship between the classes in my file in my project, for instance," and it will do
mhm.
that. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I've
and so
seen.
now you have that in a
Mhm.
Markdown file, and you can share it around, and yeah. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a tool that's like very widely supported around the world and all that. So I think the portability of that and the future proofing of that type of diagram, let's say, is probably a lot greater than using the DGML tools.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, I'm glad that kind of feature is also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, will be available on the community edition, right?
Oh yeah,
That, yeah,
yes,
Mermaid
yes.
support.
The
Yeah.
mermaid diagram is everywhere. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
And
Because,
another
yeah.
another feature that was in
Mhm.
enterprise only is code coverage. So for your unit tests, code coverage. But we're now taking that out of the enterprise and made available to community and pro as well. So in
Oh,
2026, that is now for everybody, including the free community version. Yeah.
well, that's a good news. This is quite new,
Yeah.
very new to me. That's a good news.
Uh huh.
Yeah, yeah, very good news. So as part of the code coverage, there will be also some kind of way to measure the cyclomatic complexity, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Well, there is an extension that does that. So I've used
Oh,
that in the past. Go check that out. That's kind of cool. But yeah, that might
okay.
be in the code coverage aspect as well. But check out that extension. I like it. It puts it in the code lens. That little gray
Mm-hmm.
text that sits above your methods and class
Yeah,
names. You can see what is the cyclomatic complexity of this particular method, and so it'll light up green or orange or red. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that would be great. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my question is already all of those are already answered. Yeah, thank you for your time. I'll follow up. Also, can I add you to my LinkedIn?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
networking.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I
Absolutely.
will send you email maybe later tomorrow after afternoon because it is a bit late night on my
It
time
is late
zone.
where you are, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
that's totally fine.
yeah, yeah. Um, okay. I think we are done, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Many, many
Yes,
thanks.
you're welcome.
And
Thank you for
yeah,
having me on your show.
yeah, I apologize if my English a little bit weird because my
Not at all.
yeah, English is not my first language.
No, you did great. No trouble there. Absolutely
Oh,
great.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your time, and I'll also, yeah, let me take some time to upload it because
Yeah.
I'm going to have some kind of free video because like giving some
Hmm.
thumbnail and so on before uploading to YouTube, and also I will upload the this kind version first. Hopefully, I can still see the capture. Hopefully,
Uh-huh.
your Microsoft Teams will not prohibit me to to
All good.
capture. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
hmm And I'll see you later on email and
Yep.
any
Sounds
other
good.
kinds of communication. Sounds
Thank
good.
you. Much
Thank you
appreciated.
and bye bye.
Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.